G'day YouTube. In this episode we're going to be looking at the Hammond Cruiser from CRKT, and yeah, that's currently my EDC utility blade. I think it's great, and so I'm going to tell you a bit about it. Before I get into it, I just want to quickly talk about my perspective on knives. The Hammond Cruiser I would class as a budget knife and good for its money, and I know lots of people on YouTube you see saying, well, what does that really mean? So I thought I'd explain what it means to me, and it simply is that sometimes it's worth spending more money and sometimes it's not. And for me, I'd rather spend more money on a belt knife that I'm taking out in the bush with me, and I'm quite likely going to be relying on this. My life's going to be relying on this. It's worth spending the extra money on a good quality knife that you know is going to stand up to the abuse it's going to get. And also a belt knife is going to cop more heavy abuse than just your EDC folder. Sure, an EDC folder is going to get a lot of use because obviously you're using it every day. That's the whole point of it. You've always got it with you. It's going to be getting some wear and tear, but most likely it's going to be doing smaller, easier jobs where you don't need a hardcore knife. And also, I think if you're carrying a knife every day, the chance of losing it becomes a lot greater, and therefore I would be a lot less sad if I lost this, which is about a $60 knife, compared to if I lost like a Spyderco that is $200-300 Australian dollars. I'm going to be a lot less sad, and I think this is going to hold up for a good amount of time. And you know, I'd probably rather buy two of these, which is still only 120 bucks, than buying like a $300 pocket knife. Yeah, because my life's just not relying on this. That's just my opinion. I know people are going to disagree. Obviously it's your money, spend it where you want, but I'm going to tell you about this and how good I think it is, and that it's worth spending $60 on it. So yeah, we'll just dive in here and we'll have a look. Alright guys, so this is the Hammond Cruiser, named because the designer is Jim Hammond, so obviously named after him. Before I get into the knife itself, I just want to say I've been carrying this for at least 18 months now as my EDC utility blade, so I've had a fair bit of use and experience with it. I also used it for a while as a gutting and skinning knife when hunting, simply because I didn't have a knife particularly for that purpose. So I tried this out for a while and it did do the job fine. However, the main problem that doesn't make it ideal is the point this comes to. It's not good for gutting, but it certainly held up for the job, and yeah, so it's had a lot of use, which is the point I'm saying. I haven't just got this out of the box and I'm telling you about it. I've been using it for a good while, and yeah, I've been happy with it. Comes out of the box pretty sharp for yeah, out of the box use. I've only sharpened it once or twice, which is when I was using it for skinning, just to really have it sharp. And yeah, it's probably due for a sharpen again, but it's still sharp enough for those daily jobs that it uses. Alright, so we'll start off just with a few specs. It's obviously quite a beefy, quite a large knife, and I like that because it just gives it more versatility. And for me, an EDC knife, versatility is what you want. You want it to be able to do a range of jobs relatively well. It's not a specialist knife for doing particular jobs. You want it to be an all-rounder. So anyway, the blade length is 9.5 centimeters. Blade thickness is 1/4 inch. People know knives more in inches than centimeters, so even though I'm Australian, I'm going to say 1/4 inch there because people know that as a standard thickness that you want in a knife. It is stainless steel and obviously coated, as you can see, and it weighs 173 grams, so it's relatively heavy. For a pocket EDC, people might find this is a bit big in your pocket. I carry it in my backpack most of the time, however, because for my job I can't be carrying it on person, so it's normally in my backpack, so the larger knife doesn't bother me there. Just for a look at the size there, here it is against the Mora Companion, which is a knife lots of people know and use. So the blade length is nearly identical. and the handle is just slightly longer, and the blade and the handle are also slightly thicker there as well. So it's pretty big size for a folder, but as I say, that sort of just adds to the jobs it can do, because it is quite a robust knife. I'll also say it is serrated here. Doesn't have to be, you can get it unserrated. However, again, I chose for the versatility just to have that option of serrated. Being quite a long blade, I felt I still had more than enough knife to work with while still having that bit serrated. And I know this is going to upset some people, but it's the truth, so I'm going to tell you. Because this is coated up here, can't strike a ferro rod with it, so I actually have small ferro rods that fit just in that last groove of the serration, and so that's where I use them to spark, just in that last groove. So I'm not using my main blade, and I'm not even using most of the serrated, and it just means it can strike a ferro rod, because yeah, with the coating there, that's not an option. I have made a few spring snare traps just using this knife to try it out, using this serrated bit to cut the wood, and it does the job. Obviously it's a bit tedious and time consuming because you've only got this very short area to saw with, but it can do it if for some sad reason this is the only knife you end up with out in the bush. But yeah, again, not its primary function. So let's look a bit further into the knife. I love this handle. It's got this sort of honeycomb effect on it, and it just gives it that added grip in your hand, and as you can see, it's shaped really well for your fingers, and my size hand fits in there really nicely. And you've then just got a bit of jimping up here for your thumb to rest on, and so it just fits really well in my hand. Yeah, it's really comfortable for me. It's got a nice bit of thickness, so you really know you're holding something. Lots of folders I find yeah, sitting really small in your hand, and you've got the way this shapes, you've got a guard so your finger's not going to be slipping up onto the blade there, and again on top just sits really nice. And you can, however, choke up on top of that further for if you're doing some finer carving work. Yeah, you can just choke right up on it still. So it's got the safety lock here so that it doesn't fold in on you, and you've got two options for opening it. You've got here, which is obviously the more flick. It's not spring assisted at all, which for us here in Australia is ideal because we're not allowed spring assisted knives, and can be a challenge to find a nice knife that's not spring assisted. Sometimes it can be really annoying looking online, find one you like and realise it's spring assisted. So yeah, non-spring assist. And you've also got on both sides here little thumb pieces to swing it open with your thumb, which it works. I think it's slower, but I think if you practice it, it can be a lot quicker. But for me, just flicking it from the back there works just fine. It is sort of hollow in here, as you can see, which I guess reduce weight, but also, particularly as I've said, I've used it for gutting. It does get a lot of blood, guts and bits in here, but it's really easy to just clean out, just rinse it under some water and run a towel back through there and dry it out. Being stainless steel, you know, the water's alright on it, and yeah, washes up pretty quick and easy. So as I say, it's got the lock here to stop it closing on you, but then it's also actually got a backup lock, a second lock here, which you can press up, and that stops you even from being able to push that piece over. So it really locks it in, makes the blade extra sturdy. And I actually watched a video online. I haven't done this myself, but I watched a video of a guy using this to bat on some fair sized pieces of wood, which I wouldn't necessarily recommend. It's obviously not a blade made for that, but just really showed the strength of the blade to be able to put up with that sort of abuse. And yeah, so again, being able to lock that in, it just adds to the versatility of the blade, the options of the jobs it can do. Now it's got this nice sized pocket clip, and again, once more, adding to versatility. I've got it screwed here, but you can also put it on here, here, and here, and it comes with a secondary paddle as well. So that just gives you the option of having it blade up, blade down, and left or right. So yeah, just really gives you those options again. For me, I like to have the blade pointing down in my pocket. I think the other way, it has the risk of opening and poking up at you. So yeah, I like it that way, but you've got the versatility and the options there, guys. And yeah, I think that is about it for the Hammond Cruiser. So as I say, really nice, versatile, relatively large EDC blade, and this one's held up to a lot of use over the last 18 plus months, maybe even 2 years, I'm not sure, but certainly a good while. This has been my EDC and for a while hunting blade, and I really recommend it. I really recommend CRKT in general, especially if you're on a budget. They have some really good for the money knives, particularly for the EDC and the folder range. And yeah, so check it out, guys. As always, I'll throw down in the description somewhere where you can buy the knife, and the links to all my social media. And yeah, throw down a comment, just give me some feedback on what you think of the knife if you've owned it, and other things you'd like to know about knives in future reviews, because there will be more coming. Alright guys, we'll see you in the next video.